All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Between Two Spines. I'm Dr. Jake Grunacher, and with me, as always, is Dr. Joe Kerber. What do we got today, Joe?
Well, we got something that's actually, we see it all the time, and actually yesterday we had a mom chatting with us about her children with ADHD on the spectrum, a whole gamut of kind of things that they're dealing with at home, but specifically ADHD spectral issues and why we see so many kids with that stuff here. So,
and that's a really, really awesome question, actually,
yeah.
and it's something that parents probably don't think about a lot. Is if your kid was just given a label, or they're at home with ADHD, autism type stuff, why would they think the chiropractor? And it's much more of a neurology. It's a neurological issue, but neurology plays a huge part in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's how this communicates with the rest of the body, and where are those interferences in that nervous system that is not allowing that child to actually get that expression out there. And that's most of the time with ADHD and anything on the spectrum, they're not able to express the things that they're actually kind of taking in and process that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Processing. It's a great way to put it. It's very much a processing disorder, but also it's a lot of hyperstimulation. They're receiving way too much information, not able to process it right.
Yep.
And it's almost like having a Ferrari gas pedal and bike brakes. I mean, they're getting way too much stuff in, and they don't know what to do with it. So when you look at the approach that we look at, was we don't want to change that kid, and we don't want to change that Ferrari gas pedal, because that makes them amazing. It makes these kids usually the brightest in their class. It makes them think 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of other kids, but it also makes it a little bit tougher for them to rein it in. And when they need to be able to pull it in, they don't have that proper support, those brakes, if you will, to pull it in. A lot of times they become something like referred to as like a raging bull. I mean, they're just going.
Yeah, and we always use the words kind of, you might have heard them, parasympathetic, sympathetic, and it's the meaning behind them is more of most people out there have probably heard of what's called the fight or flight response and resting and digesting. And between the two, you have to have the good communication. And a lot of kids actually don't have that communication between the two. And that's one thing that we really like to kind of dive into and say, hey, where are they in this spectrum? And sit and have that conversation with mom and whatnot, and really kind of sit down and say, hey, let's look at some scans. And that's another thing that comes up in the office is, why do we do so many scans? How do we know what's going on with people and all that kind of stuff? So why do we do some scans?
Absolutely. And usually when we'll run into someone, either when we're talking to them in here or in the community, someone that they'll say, something about autism, ADHD, or even if it's something completely not like that, and they'll ask, well, can you help my child? The best answer we can give them is we hope so, and we're not sure yet. And what we'll do is we'll take them to this full set of scans. What the scans do is they measure a whole bunch of stuff. But one of the big ones we look at with this type of issue is total energy in the system and also balance. And it's looking at that balance between the two. Because when you talked about that sympathetic, parasympathetic, they're right. They have this way overstimulation or way too much on that sympathetic side. Yep. And what that's doing is that it's kind of ramping all that up, and it's really, really harming that parasympathetic. It's something that we call a gate theory, which we'll get into that way more. But they basically have way too much of this going on, and they're not able to do those things like grow and digest and all those things. So, and a lot of people have talked about it, but the body can't be in growth and protection at the same time. So when those kids are in protection, they have a tough time growing. And
a lot of the time too, once we start kind of taking care of these kids, we see mom comes back and says, thank you, you gave me my son or daughter, whatever it is back. And it's kind of one of those things that you can see it in their eyes. It's a changed thing with them. So
it's just unlocking it a little bit.
And that's another thing that we, I guess, kind of bringing up all that stuff. We actually have a webinar that we're hosting. That's kind of a cool thing. Yeah, and I'll actually make sure at the end of this I'll throw up the link. But it's a free webinar. He won't throw it up.
I'll post it. I'll post it at the end. But it's actually run by two of the most leading edge, cutting edge, amazing pediatric practitioners in the world, Dr. Tony Ebel and Dr. David Jackson. They actually walk through about this 45-minute webinar that just explains what we just did in maybe 3-4 minutes and takes it and makes it big. And they really can explain it not to that neurological level where you just kind of sit there and go, but a way that's easy to digest, easy to understand, and it takes this, what we just talked about, to that next level. So we'll make sure that I post that link up afterwards, but it's completely free, about 40-45 minute video to watch.
Yeah, those big words that we're talking about, they usually kind of dissect them down and kind of bring them into terms that actually people can actually understand, which is a good thing, especially when it comes to healthcare, especially for children.
Man, we could probably talk all day.
Another thing too, I gotta say, there's a huge network of pediatric chiropractors
Yes.
out there, not just in the nation, but also if you're watching this and you're not in Fargo, well, you should be
You
in
should
Fargo. Yeah. If you're not, though, we have a ton of different pediatric chiropractors that we can actually send you to
Yeah.
and take care of your little
So
ones.
we have all the contact information at the end too. Reach out to us, and if you're not from here and you need some of this amazing work done, we know some phenomenal chiropractors, most likely in your area, that we can hook you up with as well.
Yep.
So yeah, we could probably talk in this all day, but
Okay.
we have to shut it off eventually.
Too much of this.
Yeah, we'll get back onto this, some of these topics next week in the weeks to come. But until then, thanks guys.
Thank you. Is it going up?
It is recording. Take 2, I guess.
Do we have a microphone with it?
Microphone is on. Not even kidding. We just shot this whole video, which was probably better the first time. We'll just say that in case this is awful.
Yeah.
Without the microphone on.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can hear us now. Can you hear me now? Yeah. All right. Somebody back there again?
Sophie, you suck me again.
Come on.
And she was back there the whole time last time
And wow.
too. That's awesome.
Okay now.
I'm sorry, sir. We don't service Ferraris here. Yeah, I know. He says a lot of weird things.
Until then, thanks guys.
Thank you. I hope that microphone works.
Do we have sound? It looks like it.
Can you hear me now?